Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I'm here with the other digital literacy coaches, digital learning coaches, and I will have them introduce themselves in just a minute. And today we're going to be talking about tips for managing digital distractions, especially for helping our students and your children manage their digital distractions. So Heather, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Heather Breedlove, and I'm the elementary digital learning coach.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya LeClaire, and I'm the high school digital learning coach.
And I'm Jill Zappia, and I'm the digital learning coach for middle school and Key Stage 3 students.
Hi, I'm Janet Hom, and I do Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 for British School.
Thank you so much for joining us, Janet. And Janet does have to leave early for a class, so sorry, Janet, that's why you weren't in the picture. Thank you for coming. So today what we're going to talk about is we have 7 tips for managing digital distractions, and we'll go through and talk about some of those different tips that we have. As we go, if you have any questions about those specific tools or tips along the way, please feel free to write some questions in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Also, if you have questions that are not related to the current slide, but you'd like to ask and they're on your mind, feel free to put them in the chat as well, and we will save them for the end of our talk. Okay, we're gonna jump in. Okay, so we're gonna start off with a little video clip that probably looks a little bit familiar, and maybe it describes you, and it probably describes your student.
If you asked me the last time I did a thing and just did it and wasn't also trying to do something else, I wouldn't be able to tell you. What? Nope. Thought I had it. To be fully present on the internet at any given moment is a very rare thing. You're trying to write a paper, and so you've got that open in Google Docs, and then you're like, well, maybe I should read a little bit more about the thing I'm writing about. And then there's a link in there. You're like, this is a little tangential, but maybe it's interesting that I should know about meerkats. Ooh, the meerkats lay eggs. I didn't know that. Is that correct? And then there's videos of not just meerkats, but three-toed sloths. Oh my gosh, these things are actually like traded in inhumane ways. I should probably get involved with some sort of activism there. So you're like joining the Facebook page, telling your friends like, this isn't right what we're doing to the sloths. And then you're like, who liked my sweet pics that I posted this morning on Facebook? Wow, it's my ex-girlfriend. Is she still into me? Maybe I'll spend 30 minutes composing a message that I never send. Or if I did send, that I then regret and spend the next hour composing a message retracting that. And then I'm like, whoa, I've gotten a lot done on my paper. Not. The way that technology is and the way that I interact with it has started to affect me in real life. Am I developing some sort of inability to focus because I never focus on things? I was like, well, maybe this is life mimicking internet, you know?
Okay, we're not gonna watch that entire clip, but it seems a little bit familiar. Our students have trouble focusing on one task because in today's society, we're so used to multitasking. And the way that our kids use the internet, they will start reading an article or watching a video, and then they'll jump from thing to thing by double checking things. They might be seeing if something's true. They might be looking up other sources. They might just think of another related topic and go there. And they're not reading linearly, they're reading hypertextually. That comes with a lot of great things. You know, you're making connections, you're synthesizing, you're thinking on a different level. But unless you have the skills to focus, it can also be very distracting. So one tip that we have, this is the first tip, is about staying focused. And Pomodoro timers are timers that you can set for a certain amount of time. A really common one is 25 minutes to keep you focused, and then you get a 5-minute break. So if you click on the link, I will send this presentation out to you, by the way. If you click on the link, you have a really great, simple Pomodoro timer that's easy to use, that has you focus for 25 minutes, and you can have the timer going in the corner of your screen, and then you get a 5-minute break. And that's a really great way to keep students focused.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I just wanted to share a few of the tips for how you might stay less distracted, and how your student or your child might stay less distracted when they're doing their work. And these are some of my favorites as well. One of the things you can do is mute the sites that might be a little bit noisy to you, the ones that might distract you. For instance, I know that my email is often quite distracting because I get Hangouts messages, which are great, and I want to get to them, but maybe not at that moment. And that's the same with your students. They might be getting messages from their friends or from their teachers. And if you're in Chrome, you can right click on a tab, and that will mute that tab so that it doesn't interrupt you if you're working. I find that one very handy. Another thing really is to close tabs. I know that we might, be working on a million things at once, and our students might be working on a million things at once, but it's important to monitor what we might have open and what might become a distraction when we don't need it to be. And one of the great tools that we found for that is actually a Chrome extension that you can get for free in the Chrome Web Store called Tab Snooze. And once it's downloaded, all you need to do is click it when you have a tab open and set it to pop up for you at a later date. So maybe you want to look at how meerkats, go about their day, but you can wait on that and you can snooze it. And so it's something you don't have to worry about anymore, at least till you want to. And then another thing is our devices. These are extremely distracting. And I mean, I have a problem with mine as well. I think we all do. And some of the things that we can do is set up do not disturb times on our phones. I know many of us have iPhones, but some of us also have Androids. And I believe they may have some of the same types of settings, but going into those settings and seeing what you can tailor so that it doesn't disturb you as much. And things as simple as turning off push notifications so that you don't get that banner and the sound all the time, muting that, or set it so that the banners only pop down when you have the phone unlocked. Those are really helpful, and they go a long way to helping you stay and your students stay less distracted with their device. Also, grayscale. Some of the things that appeal to our children and our students the most are the colors and the apps and all of the ways that they make apps addictive. And one thing you can do to really detract from that is set your phone to grayscale. And I know, Jill, you tried this, didn't you? Do the grayscale? I've still yet to try it, so she can tell you all about it.
I tried this before winter break because I wanted to suggest it to students and have some of them try it out as well. We were doing a lesson about media balance, and it was one of the suggestions that I gave to the 7th graders. And so I tried it for a day, and I hated it, and I loved it. I hated it because every time I picked up my phone, I thought, it just looks so ugly. Where are my beautiful icons? And then I set it down because I didn't want to interact on it. So it actually really helped me realize how much I was picking up my phone, and just to set it to the side right away. So that would be a good idea while kids are at home, unless they're on break time, just put their phone on grayscale as another reminder that they're not supposed to be on it. Just a little mental trick there.
And I'm going to add a tip to that is I've actually just moved all my apps that I use, especially social media, on my second screen into a folder. It's very much like grayscale. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And I find if you just make it that much harder to get to like the things you really want to do, or the things that suck up time, and you move them out of the way, have a little obstacle, that helps to balance too. So something else you could try.
Jill, you're muted.
Thank you, everyone. This is how the teachers must feel all the time. Okay. Meditation and mindfulness activities help improve students' focus. They help manage stress and regulate emotions. So Calm is a really wonderful app. And I've actually included in the link here, there are 30 days of different mindfulness activities for students. And some of these are 3 minutes, some of them are 5, up to even 10. And this would be a really great activity to do as a family, just to it's usually a listening activity and you just have to listen. Sometimes they're a meditation, and it just really helps you learn those skills to focus and self-regulate your emotions. So I highly recommend that. Video games are, something that we always get questions about. We often have parents worry if their students are spending too much time on video games, and they aren't really sure if video games are a good thing for kids to be interacting with online. And what I'll say after, talking to many people about video game addiction and doing research, only 3 to 4% of gamers actually suffer from video game addiction. It's a real thing that the World Health Organization has come out with. And the definition is the inability to stop playing, and stop gaming, even when it interferes with life and sleep and friendship. And that behavior is sustained over a whole year. The link that I have here will actually take you to an article about that. And later on in the resources, I have a quiz that you can take to see, if you think someone in your family is suffering from gaming addiction, you can take the quiz and see if any of the common symptoms are symptoms that one of your family members is experiencing. However, that quiz is just, a preliminary step, you would want to definitely talk to a counselor if you have serious questions about that and are concerned. On the positive side, video games have been shown to help students with problem solving, spatial navigation, and their memory. And they also provide a really wonderful way, especially right now, for students to connect and cooperate online. We've been using a lot of different, not necessarily video games, but we've been doing a lot of games together during our prime time in the middle school, as a way for kids to connect, and teaching them ways to do that outside of class as well. I'm not going to play this video right now, but one of the resources that you might like to look into if you feel like your children are spending too much time on video games is called Game Quitters. This is a great video that's about 1 minute and 20 seconds long, and it talks about some of the reasons why games really pull you in and the feedback loops that are involved, and then some different activities that you can substitute instead of games that give you those same immediate rewards.
Well, and speaking about like video games, another thing too you might think about doing is actually finding a video game you could play together. If you have a big gamer at home and they're very interested in video games, that's a different way to connect with your child. For instance, like Mario Kart or Just Dance, which actually gets you moving. Among Us is a popular one. They were playing it over at the middle school as one of those connection activities. It's a mafia player type game. And I tried it with my own kids, and it was a little frustrating at first. So I think they really enjoyed seeing me get frustrated and kind of feel like they do when they're learning something new. And it was just a fun experience all the way around. So I highly encourage you to do that. And speaking of connection and video games, we also kind of need to help our kids maybe connect a little bit online in terms of playing games or doing things other than just consuming YouTube. So maybe, I know during this virtual learning time, there hasn't been a lot of opportunities to really connect outside or in bigger groups. And in middle school and high school, they're really kind of used to that. So they might be feeling lonely and isolated. So encourage your kids to say, hey, have you tried that game Among Us? Why don't you, message a bunch of your friends and, organize a game, making sure that they're actually spending online time connecting with their friends because they're not able to do it in person or even at school at this point. You can do various video apps that actually allow multiple people to connect, like FaceTime. And then sometimes they just like doing their own thing. So maybe they're playing a video game, but then they have all their friends in the video chat so they can just like chat and hang out like they normally do, just not in person. Another one, you see the Camp Werewolf photo. It's called backyard.co, and it's a new one that I found. It allows multiple people's video as well as embedded games that they can play together. So it's all in one screen. It's great. You can play, doodle, code words, wordplay, a bunch of different games. And it's just a really great way for them to get together and connect. And in fact, I had one of my oldest turned 16 and we had to have a virtual birthday party. I'm sure a lot of your kids out there have had to have similar experiences. And we used backyard.co, and he just kind of set it up and they had fun hanging out and playing that.
This was a great suggestion, Heather. We actually, a lot of the 6th grade teachers today use backyard.co to play the werewolf game with their students, and they seem to really like it. I ended my call and said, you guys can keep playing if you want. And then I went back 20 minutes later and said, all right, they were still on there. So I said, all right, it's time to take a break. And I had to delete the meeting space. And I was like, get off your computer before your next class. But it was a really good way for them to connect. So that was a great suggestion.
Yeah, we did it with actually my family as well. So it's a way for a whole families to connect. My family's in the United States. And one of my nephews who's 13 was like, can we do that again? That was so fun. And just trying to recreate something, some experiences that we're missing right now. So that's really important. And that brings us to kind of the opposite, right? Also creating some media balance as a family and creating some screen-free moments. And now this might be the hard time to come by, but I know when I go home and my kids have been on screens all day long, I'm like, hey, we all need a break. Our eyes need a break. Our bodies need a break and moving. So I would try designated certain times that maybe there's no screens. And as a family, you decide that. Maybe it's at the dinner table. Maybe it's an hour before bed. Whatever it is that you do as a family, agree that together. I know many families choose apps or software to like kind of manage what I call consumption screen time, like just consuming it, not the connection or the creation part. However, in my experience working with a lot of different kids, it seems like parents are kind of pulling their hair out because kids usually find a way around it. They figure out things, they go on a different Wi-Fi, all that stuff. So sometimes you have to physically remove the device from their bedroom, or they put it in a cabinet to actually get that screen time. It's just too tempting to have their phone accessible. So something to think about.
So I don't know if anyone lives in Yeongdong, but the power actually went out yesterday for 15, 20 minutes. I actually don't even know what time, how long it went out. But it was actually, I actually felt really relieved because I was planning on working on something. I thought, oh, my Wi-Fi's out, I get to take a break. So I just focused on cooking in my kitchen by candlelight. And then when the Wi-Fi went back on, I had to get back to work. But it was a really good reminder just to unplug sometimes and maybe actually unplug the internet or put the phone physically away, because sometimes we need that extra boundary.
Yep.
Okay. We did want to keep our tips pretty concise because we want there to be time for all of you to ask questions if you have any. So we'll go ahead and open it up to questions, and you can feel free to unmute yourself. You can do that by clicking the space bar on your computer if you're using that. Or if you would feel more comfortable, you can always write the question in the chat.
So thank you so much for giving us like this useful information. Like first thing I wanted to ask you, if my child opens all the tabs and then how can I, help with it? But you guys started with it, so it was very helpful. Also, I was thinking about, wondering about this meditation thing, but this app you recommended, I'm definitely gonna try. So thank you so much. And
Oh, great.
all the
You're
things
welcome.
are really helpful. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. The Calm app is really wonderful. I've used it over the past year. It was free for teachers for a few months, but now it's not free anymore. However, the link that I included in the presentation, all of the links in that presentation are actually free. They're not paid content. So if you look there instead of, if you start there instead of with the app, you can see if you like it first.
Well,
because it
Thank you
is
so much.
okay.
I've been using it a lot as well. I think actually with my own kids to go to sleep. Also, when they're feeling anxious, there's quite a number of body scans. That's what it's called on there. And it kind of walks them through how to relax every part of their body. And it really kind of just releases that. I mean, with everything going on, there's just a lot of that going on. It's well worth the price too.
Okay. I do want to say I got a message from one of our participants mentioning that in addition to apps like Calm, it's also really helpful for certain families to pray together, and that's a really good way to connect as a family and to help bring bring peace and calm and help ease worries with your family. So thank you to the parent who sent that to me in the chat. Okay, I'm getting a question now about children's resistance for removing or taking away their devices and how to deal with that and what to do. So I have a book that I'm going to go grab. And while I grab that, Tanya or Heather, if you have anything to share about that, or any other parents really, if you have experience that you'd like to share, feel free to chime in. So how would you deal with children's resistance to taking away their devices?
Heather, I believe you were saying, you were talking the other day about what you're doing now with the devices at night. I wonder if that might be a good one to share.
Well, I haven't done it yet. See, that's the problem. I'm like every other parent. I want to do it and it's so hard. So I feel your pain for that question. I totally understand. I have 3 kids, high school, middle school, and elementary. So this is definitely a topic in our house. And I think it will happen, but we are going to be probably physically removing the devices from their rooms and putting them in our bedrooms. The tricky part is the charging, so we got to figure that out. But that way, because I'm able to shut off like a bedtime and a morning time, so it shuts off between there. But even then, it's just they're sneaking around it. I think they figure out the code I put on there, so I think it's time to put them in the bedroom. In my bedroom.
I think one of the things too, like, and I mean, I'm not speaking from my own experience because I don't have children. However, I've been, talking to parents for a few years on this. And one of the things that really seems to help is just an open communication about it and really involving them in the choices and trying your best to, I know they're resistant and they have their reasons, but, explaining why things have to be the way they are, and maybe saying, let's develop a procedure together rather than having the parent be the only one stating how things should be. So, I'm not the utmost expert on having the kids, but I feel like from some parents that I know and some friends that I know, just having more openness about it seems to be, getting the foot on the right track. So I think, Jill, you might have a book that helps with that. Maybe the book I'm thinking you have.
It probably is the book that you're thinking. I see the comment. Let me tell you, Tanya, you're absolutely right. I think without those conversations, there's misunderstanding. So I might, even as a parent, or you don't understand, you go in and you're like, hey, it's time to get off your device, or you've been on screens too much, whatever. And then they explain to me, they're actually like, well, I'm talking to my friend that I haven't seen in forever, or, he moved away now. And now we're finally getting to chat together and we're playing this game. And it's like, oh, well, wow. Why didn't, I just kind of jumped to conclusions and stuff. So the conversation is super important. So we're working on that piece.
Yeah. So the book that I grabbed is actually from a guest speaker who came to visit our school last year. It's called Would I Have Sexted Back in the 80s? And it has advice for parents about everything that we're talking about now. And the reason that I grabbed it is one of the chapters is how to manage change in your family and implement these boundaries. And it talks about how when you implement a change like this, you go from status quo to resistance to chaos to integration, a new status quo. And then, kids are used to the new status quo. So that chapter in particular, I think is really useful. So I can probably just scan this chapter and include it in some of the resources. But it does talk about how you have to go through resistance and chaos first, and then eventually by sticking to those things, you get to new habits. I would also say that I definitely hear your struggle, and I've talked to parents for several years about these topics, but I don't have children myself. But something that other parents have told me, oh, and I'll call on Mr. Smith in just a minute. Something that parents have told me is that being media mentors, like they're modeling that they have trouble sometimes with boundaries with technology as well. And then you are also having, you know, putting it away during dinner, that kind of thing. Justin, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, you said the point that I was going to make. It's really important as parents that you're participating, and so that your child sees you making an effort as well, because that's really powerful. Whereas if you, hey, I'm taking your device away, but I'm going to sit in my bed and I'm going to text and I'm going to use my computer, obviously not very powerful. Most of us know that, but it's something you really need to keep in mind when you enter this agreement, that it's for everyone, because what you're talking about is beneficial not only to children but to adults, particularly when you talk about, you know, the blue screens and sleep and how important it is to take time away from the device before you start to sleep, because you have much better sleep cycles that way. But yeah, so sorry, you said what I was going to say.
Oh, great. You have more credibility as a parent though, from that perspective. So thank you for chiming in.
I just wanted to add to what Justin said about, you know, also doing it as well. And I think like our kids maybe see us on laptops probably quite a bit. And when my kids were little, and, you know, it's important to kind of describe what you're doing as well, because they don't know. They just know you have a screen in front of them. And so at this point, like, okay, I'm doing work right now. I'm answering emails, and I'll get off in this time. And you're kind of modeling that boundary. Versus like they don't know if you're just watching YouTube, you know, for an hour too. So it's helpful for them to distinguish there's different types of things we do on the screen. Jill, what was that book name?
The book is called Would I Have Sexted Back in the 80s?
I'll put
by Allison Oaks.
in the chat.
Yeah. And Screen Time is also, or Screenwise is also a really great book that I've recommended before. So feel free to screenshot that, or I believe Heather's going to add that to the chat. Okay, are there any other questions that you have for us today? All right. Well, we just want to thank you so much for, you know, dialing in and listening to us talk, and then also asking your questions today. The DLCs, we are available anytime that you need support. If you would like to talk through, you know, any of the issues that we talked about today together individually, we'd be happy to set up a time to talk with you, especially during virtual learning. We're here to support you guys, so please feel free to send us an email, and we can reach out to you about a time to connect.
I can't link that other book for some reason, but
that's okay. We will add it. We'll add our slides and all of the resources that we talked today, and that will go out in the next e-news and or principal email. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And we are going to end the call.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.